seeking now that can breed future. Seeking now that can breed future. Looking inward and outward at once, before and after, seeking now that can breed future. Looking inward and outward at once, before and after, seeking now that can breed future.
So before we begin, we'll pour libations for our ancestors. Olayinka Bernie Nickel, Faith Ringo,
Alice Washington, Toni Morrison,
Grandma Adama,
Claude Futrell,
Ashe.
Ashara.
So,
Good afternoon. So I have the gift of being able to sit with my sister today.
and I'm also blessed with that gift.
And we just have a couple of questions for each other that we've not asked each other before. We thought we start with there are Black people in the future, a term coined by our beloved sister friend, American artist Alicia B. Wormsley, a construct that we move from as memory artists, as creatives, as Black women, and those of us who are also water bearers. So my question for you is, what is your first water memory?
So I remember, I don't know how old I was, but I was very young, and my mother telling me about growing up in Sierra Leone and being at the ocean. She says she used to swim like a fish. There's a child, they would call her like a little fish. And I remember her distinctly telling me this memory about, I don't know if it was almost drowning, but she saw a mami wata. So that was my first introduction to this idea of mami wata. And that stayed with me for a very long time. And I mean, I still think about it as you ask this question. And as a child, I always had a vivid memory. So as she was telling me, I would just imagine like what it was like for her. And, you know, because she grew up, she's a Bube from my grandmother, who is from Equatorial Guinea. And she was raised in Freetown by Creoles, so they didn't know what to do with this vision. And they put her through a ceremony called darkening her eyes so that she wouldn't see this otherworldly, have these otherworldly
Darkening her eyes.
Darkening the eyes, yes. So I'll end there.
Okay, okay, because I have more questions.
Okay.
My first water memory, well, first I want to say I think it's interesting that your first memory is someone else's memory.
Yeah, it's something very interesting, me being the first person born in my family in America. What people are quick to call me American, but what they don't understand is that I took on my parents' longing for home from a very long, as a child. So I always knew that I was something else. Like I was not just the place where they had me.
Yeah.
I always longed for home through them because that's all I knew. Yeah, so it was very interesting being a child of immigrants and being in a new place and, you know, when they're always talking about home. So home was always their home for me. Yeah.
I understand. I understand. When I think about that question for myself, my first memory is that I drowned. I drowned in the deep end.
Wow.
So I must have been 5 or 6. I grew up in this beautiful city called Detroit, Michigan.
Yes.
Where I still live sometimes.
Detroit versus everybody?
Versus everybody.
Okay.
What up, though? Our school was located inside the building where the YMCA was, so there was a pool. They decided they were going to take all of us down for a swimming lesson. So some of my classmates knew how to swim. Again, we were very little, and I was a very little person and a very silent person. Shy to the point where I would hide when people would come to visit and I wouldn't speak. And people have a hard time believing that now, but I'm still a very shy person. The point is that they made me jump into the deep end of the pool. It was a demand. Somehow this is how they thought, we'll teach you how to swim. Jump from the deep end and I'll catch you. He didn't catch me.
Wow.
So my little body hit the bottom of the pool and I remembered drowning.
Wow.
So when I came up, I was angry and I was scared. And to this day, I will not jump into the deep end of the pool. I'm not a strong swimmer. I love the water. I love being in the water in the ocean. But I will not jump into the deep end of the pool because the memory of me drowning and dying is real for me.
You know what's really interesting about this story is it makes me think about the contradictory, the multiple facet of what water is. And I think about how this thing that almost took your life is also the thing that nourishes you. So
Yes.
could you talk about how water nourishes your practice?
When social media first started, remember like MySpace and like Hotmail emails and all that? So my name has been Blue Black Woman for the entire time.
Yeah.
It's still one of my Instagram accounts. It has everything to do with deep water. Has everything to do with my love of being at the ocean. And the lessons that water teaches us, metaphorically and absolutely physically, the element of this planet and everything on this planet needing that that element in order to survive. So we do live on planet water. I'm an Aquarian. It's an air sign, for those of you who know that, but the symbol is a water bearer.
Yeah.
Someone who pours water, who pours libation. When I was in my late 20s, I lived in Denver, Colorado for a long time. There was a griot, a community storyteller named Opalanga Pugh, who was the libation pourer at ceremony. As she knew that she was dying, she began to teach me how to pour libation. And I became the person in the artistic community, who was called to pour the water. the lessons that I continue to learn about water are about how to flow, when to sit still, when to be light, when to be flexible, but also the way in which it shows up in my curatorial practice is that it is about ceremony. There is always the pouring of water, the taking in of water, the understanding that the memory is past, present, and future, and that water moves everywhere. How might it show up in your practice?
It's interesting that, I'm listening to you, and I always think about this idea of water and ritual. And I also think about even this memory of that through my mom and this otherworldly experience. It's something that leans back to the indigenous experience, right? And something that connects to the earth. And so it's through water is how I think about ancestral memory. I think a lot about the locations, like where it hits the shores. So even in the first video, it's called A Meditation for the Dispersed. And it was a part of the Malta Biennial. It's actually still up now in Malta. And in the video, you'll see different bodies of water that represents different parts of history, but also, a way to, so for example, the Mediterranean, I'm looking at the Mediterranean and the migration across the Mediterranean, the recent one where so many people lost their lives. And so that was kind of a libation and an honoring to those people. But then also, I'm thinking about the earlier histories before race.
That's right.
Right? And the exchange of knowledge through the Mediterranean as well. But then there's also the shores in Miami where we have Virginia Key Beach.
Yes.
Right? So a man named Dorsey back in the late 1800s, when Miami was formed, bought an island that's called Fisher Island now, black man. And at the time there was segregation, so black people didn't have a place to relax and to resort. So they created Virginia Key Beach and said, we'll create our own.
That's right.
So I think about water also and spaces where people of African descent claimed their spaces and said, you know what? This belongs to all of us. It's the earth, right? And or in that same video, there's Cuba. Think about my lineage on my grandfather's side. My mother's father was an Afro-Cubano who traveled to Equatorial Guinea in the late 1800s. So there's all these, I could keep going on and on and on. So in each video or in photographs, I'm thinking about the vast nature of what this earth is and how it's many and multiple places, but one at the same time. As I think about our bodies, that we love to put labels, nationalistic labels on our bodies. We like to put colors on our bodies, but we're so complex.
We are.
We're made of so much knowledge. And I'm thinking outside of these nationalistic constructs and trying to go deeper into indigenous knowledge or AI, African knowledge.
African intelligence.
African intelligence.
African intelligence.
to really find different ways to speak about our existence. Because I think that when we tap into that, we could start thinking about the future, a sustainable future, an equitable future.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, something that, as you were speaking, that I'm reminded of in terms of how the water, where it hits the shore. Part of my curatorial practice is, I don't want to say it's rooted, but it's informed by permaculture design. And so the space of the edge where the water hits the shore and all of the beautiful things that happen right there.
Yes.
All of the goods that you get to collect right there. All of the bounty, you know, and curiosity is right there. Like if you want to get something good, like wait till the water goes out. And then see what she has left you. You know, there are a lot of stories about the things, the beings that live on the bottom of the ocean that we don't get to see. And I remember that last tsunami in Japan, what was that, maybe 12 years ago, and the water went out. And when it came back, there were all of these creatures that had not been seen ever by humans, or maybe that we thought were gone, but they're not gone. So there's this deep information in the dark part of the water. And I'm specifically interested in the stories and the way Black women like you, your practice, your film work, your installation work, how it pulls from the deep part of the water, and how the information that is shared, I think, can touch all of us.
Yes.
You know? You don't have to be identified as a Black woman body to understand this information that is offered to all of us.
Yeah, because we're all beings of the earth.
We are beings of the
If
earth.
only we really knew that. You know what's really interesting that you said about the shores? So this is why I know that, you know, we're here, is that, so in my installations, I'm always collecting. I always go to the shore, and I have all of these gifts. I always ask, may I? It's not much. It's
Well,
just
because you
kind
have
of-
to leave something
Yes.
as well. If you're going to,
Yeah, so my studio has gifts from Cuba, from the Sea Islands, and the Southern Sea Islands, Gullah and Geechee, Maine, which is so significant, Malta, Spain, everywhere. Like every time I just little tiny things, and I piece those gifts together to I make paper, and embedded in the paper, you'll have these gifts, and it's symbolic. I call them beings. I never call my work objects because they're not objects. They're not to be objectified. They're beings. They're living and they're breathing, and they're remembering. And then on top of those, because I still am a photographer, I do cyanotyping on top of those to put images, and then I'm stitching, like recalling my grandmother's practice of batiking, and then stitching those together to make photographs into textiles and all types of different things. But these gifts are so important to the work, to the practice. Even the tambourine in there has like some, you know, stuff.
some stuff. So,
Yeah.
as we're thinking about this giving, and particularly the giving that Black women do,
Yeah.
the creating, the labor, the expertise that is uniquely ours, what are some of the strategies that you implore to take care of yourself so that you can give from the overflow?
Yes. It's something I've been working on, and so I'm not going to act as if I have this down.
Yeah,
But rest is key,
indeed.
and reflecting, being in the water. So I had a residency in Miami last summer, and every morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, I went and floated in the water, and it was restorative, and I took the time, and I realized that, you know, in an hour's time, you can debrief, you could meditate, you know, you could relax, restore, giving myself time to restore. That's what I have to do. Yeah, and then also finding community, usually young people, where I could do exchanges. That charges me with so much energy.
They have so much energy.
I love it.
It's like, what are you talking about?
Yes.
I was with
yes.
a group of high school students 2 days ago in Oakland at a gallery, and it was nuts. It was like, what are you talking about? I was like, what are you reading? We were talking about James Baldwin. They're like, I don't read. I'm like, you don't read. It's like, because you don't have to read. You have this computer in your hand.
Exactly.
It reads for you. Oh, I don't know how to write in cursive because I've never had to write. But they have all of this energy. They were just feeding it and pouring into me. But I also have this practice of meditation.
Yes.
And being able to sit still, learning how to sit still, allowing myself to just empty out. And it took a long time to learn how to empty out for 5 minutes.
For 5
Years. It took me years to learn to meditate for 5 minutes. But meditating at the water, drinking water, and something that I hear and experience from your work and the work of many other Black women, this veneration of our ancestors.
Absolutely.
Like, so actually having conversations with the ancestors, offering them water, offering them food, offering them song and smoke and all of those, those are things that are part of that. Those are strategies that help me remember that I am indeed an ancestor and that this work that I do is that they be pleased with me.
Yeah, I learned that from my mom. Like, it's just something I grew up doing in the sometimes in the morning, you know, we'll notice that there's water, there's some black eyed peas, there's some akara, there's the whole plate. And then, you know, I'm 5. I'm like, ooh,
Who's that for?
did they come?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm
Did they
picking up-
eat?
Did they eat?
Did
you
they
know? And it's just a beautiful thing that I'm really blessed and grateful for. What I didn't understand so much then is really playing out in the way that I'm living now and, you know, living through them now. So it's really important. Yeah. Yeah.
I like the space for contemplating floating.
Yes.
And this space that allows for us to be in memory with the next level of work.
Yes.
What is your next level? What's the next place?
So I have these, I have tons of photographs in my studio now, as I said, all these gifts, and they're just waiting for me. This month, I can't even say what they're going to turn into, but I know that this summer I'm going to be doing a lot of stitching.
Okay.
I have all of these materials. I have these water sachets that I collected from Sierra Leone. I have thousands of them. So my nephew collected them and had a whole team of young kids picking up the trash. Like
Did you
those,
say thousands of them?
I do. They're sitting in my studio, and rice bags, because rice is extremely significant
It is.
to the next body of work that I'm doing. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm a Guggenheim Fellow.
Yes, you are. You rock that. You rock that. Yeah.
And I'm using this. This is like future, next year work is going to be a long form film. So it's going to have everything to do with the earth and our bodies and our connection to that. So stay tuned for that too. So there's all these different
There's all
things
that.
happening.
There's all that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How about you? Don't you think, what's happening with you? We have 30 seconds. Go ahead.
You know, just tell me all the things in 30 seconds. I'm going to continue this traveling exhibition that I'm working on right now called Frontline Prophet James Baldwin.
Nice.
It's the work of Sabrina Nelson, who's a Detroit-based artist. And this fall, I'm going to take a sabbatical.
Good.
First time I've ever had a sabbatical.
That's amazing.
That's the plan.
Yes.
So I'm just allowing myself to create the kind of conditions I can with my organization, Artist as First Responder,
Okay.
so that I can take a rest.
Okay, Ashe.
Yes.
We did it
Thank
in
you.
time.